I only actually get involved with patients if we know that they're going to survive the brain injury. The nursing staff and the medical staff on the intensive care unit are fantastic, and they give a huge amount of support and care to the patients who perhaps are not going to survive. So therefore, because Nick was so poorly when he came into hospital, I didn't get involved initially because there was that real worry that actually Nick wasn't going to survive this injury. When Nick came in, obviously he had all the emergency care, and the CT scan demonstrated an injury that was causing a huge amount of swelling within the brain, and of course the brain's encased in the hard shell of the skull, so it's very different if you have swelling of your brain or as if you have swelling of your foot, because if your foot swells it can just swell and swell and swell, and that's fine. But if your brain swells, it's encased in this hard box called the skull with a hole in the bottom, and obviously if it swells so much it puts pressure on the base of the brain, and potentially that could be very, very dangerous.
This is a CT scan of the skull, and this is actually done in the convalescent phase after he'd recovered from these acute events. And I can scroll through it from the very top, cross sections coming down through the head, and it'll become more recognisable when I pass through the eyes and the back of the head. So these are sections going in this kind of direction. And you can see as I come up from the bottom, there's a defect in the skull on that side, and apparent on that side also, where we have removed these pieces of bone, quite substantial sections of the skull, in order to allow space. One of the disadvantages with the decompressive operation is that it leaves these large defects in the skull, and that is very significantly disfiguring. Surprisingly well tolerated actually, and you'd have thought that would increase the risk of further brain injury, but experience shows that not to be the case. However, they are very disfiguring, and for that reason we try to restore the skull shape to its original as closely as possible. And so far the best way of doing that is to have a specially made titanium plate, and because we don't keep the original bone pieces we take out, we get these high resolution CT scans made of the head, and that enables a reconstruction to be made with what they call computer numeric controlled machine. And there's a specialist workshop which we use, which is actually based in London, who manufacture for us made to measure titanium shaped plates to cover these defects. We did think he was going to die, and I still think it's highly likely that he would have died without the decompressive procedure. And actually the debate we had at the time was, what was the likelihood of him making a worthwhile recovery?
Usually you wake up in your own bed, and you don't expect to wake up in a hospital to be told, head injury.